How do you know whether the head is in the right position, whether it's too far forward and too far back? Well, Alexander actually used to say that there's no such thing as a right position. See, when we think of posture, we think of shape or position or how we should hold ourselves, and it's nothing to do with it. If you look at children, they can be all different shapes. If you watch a child on a beach, you can't really tell your child from somebody else's child because they keep moving in different ways. So basically the orders for the head are you think of the neck to be free so the head can move forward and up. And it's all thought. Okay, so you're really thinking of freedom. And if you have freedom of the neck, then the head will naturally go to the right position or the right movement wherever it's needed. Now the only problem is most of us don't know where our neck is. And when Alexander used to talk about the neck, he didn't used to think of this. He used to think of the neck joint. So can you point to where you think the top of the spine is? And nearly everybody goes back here. But it's actually right between the ears. If you look at a skeleton, the actual joint is right between the ears. So all the teachers who told you at school that you had nothing between your ears, they were all wrong. Okay, you have a very important joint, and that joint needs to move. So often people are moving back here when they need to move here. So while we're on the subject of this, it might be quite interesting to do people don't realize where joints are. Can you all point to where the bones of the arm join the body? And nearly everyone goes here or here, but not many people go here. And that's exactly where it is. It's the end of the clavicle. If you put there and you raise your arm up, you can actually feel that joint moving. Okay, so the arms come right in here. And again, if you go to the skeleton, you'll see the humerus joining onto the shoulder blade, and then the shoulder blade is free floating, and all it joins onto is the clavicle. And the end of the clavicle joins the sternum, so we have 6 inches more arm than we thought we have. Okay, and if we move our arm from here, it's a totally different movement than moving from here. So if I go and play tennis and I think my arm joins here, I'll actually do something like that. But if I'm actually doing a tennis swing and I'm going from here, I'll do a totally different swing. I'll be using my body in a different way. Hip joints are another one. If you ask people where the hip joints are, they usually go about here. But they're not there at all. They're actually in the groin area, and you can find them by bending your knees. So the hip joints are about 6 inches lower down than people think they are. And most people, if they think that's a hip joint, they will actually bend from there, and all they're doing is they're bending L4, L5, as we saw in this picture here. Bending from the top of the hips, and he's bending from the hip joint. So again, you can actually see it makes a huge difference. And most people who have backache actually have problems with L4, L5, that area there. Okay, because they think that's a hip joint, so they go and pick something up, they don't bend their knees, and then suddenly, after doing that maybe 20,000 times, their whole back goes. So whenever you're picking something up, always think of the knees going forward, and then you'll be bending from the right place. Okay? So talking about mattresses, I mean, usually a harder mattress is usually better for backs, but I've come across people who cannot sleep on a hard mattress. They like a nice sinking mattress and you know, whatever. So all I can actually say is just listen to your body. And Alexander used to say people misuse their body at night as much at night, or even more at night, than they do during the day. But there's nothing you can do about it at night, but there's plenty you can do about it during the day. In other words, when I was teaching people to drive, I used to wake myself up every night doing this with my leg. Because I was dreaming, I was teaching people to drive, and I was trying to find the dual controls. Okay, so I was doing that with my leg. Okay, so whatever we do in our daytime, we actually dream about at night. So I find that when people have Alexander lessons, the first thing they say, even before their back gets better, they start saying, I'm sleeping better, I'm sleeping longer, I'm not waking up so tired, And, you know, so sleeping is an issue that actually can be helped with the technique. Yeah, yeah. Feet and swaying back from here, pushing the pelvis forward. And then he said it was a very common problem in those days. I find it's still a very common problem. And then he suggested putting one foot 12 inches apart and putting one foot back, and the feet about 45 degrees. I'm feeling for where the tension is. It's not like a massage. You're actually feeling where the tension is, and then that informs you. And let's say I put a hand here, the shoulder is up, maybe I can actually feel that up. And then what I would actually say is, can you think of the shoulder softening? Can you think of the shoulder dropping away from the ear? And when I have hands on, I can feel when that tension releases. So my hands are observing the tension in the body. Yeah, they're not doing anything to that person, they're just monitoring. Okay, and it's something you learn how to do for yourself. And tension always pulls two parts of the body together. Okay, so if let's say the shoulders are up, that shoulder is being pulled towards the ear. So the natural, Alexander called them orders or directions, you would think of the shoulder moving away from the ear. But you've got to feel that the shoulder is up in the first place. Most people go up with their shoulders up and they don't even know they're actually doing it. So there's a lot of self-awareness of what we're doing in the first place, and that would be the basis of the technique. I become aware of it, and then I would give myself or parts of my body an order. It could be shoulder away from the opposite hip, it could be the ear away from the shoulder, it could be the head away from the feet, but you would actually give these orders to yourself in your everyday life, as you're at the computer, as you're driving, as you're walking down the street. So that's the basics of the technique. Yeah, people try to improve posture. They sometimes take a step back and make things worse. And the answer to that is people do try and do things too hard. In other words, they're trying to, let's say I have the same example of the shoulder being upped by the ear. Instead of just letting it drop and relaxing it, they actually pull it down. So they actually make things worse. Okay, and Alexander had a name for it. He called it end gaining, meaning being too goal orientated. Okay, so he just said, look, if you stop doing the wrong thing, the right thing happens by itself. Okay, so if you stop pulling the shoulder up, it will go down by itself. So it's basically trying to get out of the way of doing it. But people, sometimes they see the benefits of the technique and they, instead of actually thinking of the shoulder dropping, they pull the shoulder down. Okay? Instead of thinking of the head going up, they try and lift it. Okay? So that's why sometimes people in the early stages, they can make things worse. So that's where you would have to be very careful and monitor. That's why you have hands on, because you might see the shoulder go down, but unless you have the hands on the shoulder, you can't tell whether that shoulder is going down from excess tension or from release of tension. Okay, great. Okay.